And that's pretty much it. Good morning, Damian, Frequency Digital. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tim. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to join the podcast.
Yeah, man. We've been working together now for about 2.5 years, I think, at this point in the
I think
content
so.
ID space. And I thought it important to bring you on for a couple different reasons. Number one, I absolutely love your company and I love the service that you guys provide. Things have changed and evolved in a very positive way over the last 2.5 years. And I wanted to discuss that a little bit, but I also wanted to give you a platform and an opportunity to talk about some of your origins, why you started this in the first place, and like a little bit of your background, just to get an idea of what motivated you. Because I know that's not where you started. By doing some internet diving and understanding, I know you started like in healthcare, right? Personally.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
definitely true. Yeah,
Yeah.
so actually it's quite an interesting story because I know the owner since I'm 4 years old. We were together in elementary school.
Yeah.
So there was already like a seed planted. Then I went to secondary school. I chose the path of studying. So first I studied biomedical sciences, and after that I did a master in human movement sciences, which is
Oh.
quite different from music, I have to say.
Sure is.
Oh, well, I mean, I was always very interested in music, but at some point you have to choose a path in life. So I thought, let's go for the university one. So my friend always had a YouTube channel, which was called Free Songs to Use. We will come back to that later.
Sure.
But so first the biomedical sciences was a lot of laboratory stuff, which was actually quite interesting. I really liked the research part of things. And then it was also like, well, let's just continue the pod and do also a master, which was human movement sciences, a little bit of a different direction, but still in the research part. Then my first job was indeed in healthcare. It was at the laboratory of a hospital. I have to say it was not really the type of job that I want to do for the rest of my life,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you have to start somewhere. After that, I was looking for another job, and then I started to work for a company which was more related to my master. They were selling nutraceuticals, which is actually like branded ingredients for example, for sports nutrition or for general health. And they would do some research together with the university where I studied in Maastricht, which is in the Netherlands, by the way. That was actually quite a cool job. That was also my first sales experience. I knew that I was really liking the sales part of things, but I was still not in the right environment, let's say. I mean, the type of work that I was doing was great, but I had a lot of people around me from the companies that I was talking to. They just had like the 9 to 5 job, and they were not that motivated. I mean, some of them, sure, but they didn't get like the real energy from that job. I was looking for being in a place that was also motivating me, but also that I was working with people that were motivated.
Yeah.
Also, I was thinking about starting my own company. Of course, starting an own company is quite an interesting route. There are so many possibilities. So I had like a full list with ideas, but I was also still in touch with my friend from elementary school. And we were always going to the gym together. I was talking to him and he said, well, Damien, I have an interesting idea. It's a temporary project. So if you want, we can try it together. So I actually started as a freelancer, and then I was working together with my friend, to set up Frequency Digital.
So how many years ago did that start? That you started working for them?
Uh, It's close to 4 years now. It's not that long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but actually, so Frequency, like I said, he started as Free Songs to Use, which was a promotion channel for music. All the music was free to use, and that actually started more than 10 years ago. So we do have some
Wow.
experience in the company.
Very cool. So the owner, that's Rucker, right? Is it?
No,
Or
that's Kelvin Ruiters. So
Kelvin. That's right. That's right.
so Rutger he was the label manager of the label. So maybe just to clarify a bit, so it started as Free Songs to Use, which
Hmm.
was more like a promotion channel on YouTube for artists to promote their music. And from there, every content creator or everyone basically could grab the music and use the music for free. But they had to give attribution when they were using the music. And
Perfect.
years later, it started to grow, and we changed name to Frequency Music as our record label.
Hmm.
Frequency Music was posting a lot of EDM music, but then a couple of years later, I mean, quite a few years later, we decided that we had to change direction a little bit because the EDM music in the label scene was getting quite difficult, and we wanted to become a bit more specialized in indie pop, and then also focusing on working with a couple of artists. From the label side, a lot of things changed, and Rutger basically came over from the label to Frequency Digital.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I imagine, from what I understand of the music scene in Europe, and it's very limited, but that subgenre of music tends to be heavily saturated in Western European countries. Is that not correct? I mean, it's a very popular subgenre, right?
Well, yeah, it was quite booming.
Yeah.
Back in the days, a lot of artists and a lot of labels, they came up with music related to EDM. So it was quite saturated at some point, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's curious to me is that Kelvin had already established a foundation of what one of the main reasons I decided to engage your company and join you, not only in the YouTube content ID space, but also in the distribution space. He had a foundation, it seems, in royalty free music and slash Creative Commons that just resonates with me, and that the whole company itself resonates with me. And with the understanding that, there's a slice of what we do that is very much counterintuitive to making up front. So that's the crazy thing about it. There's opportunities to make money, but releasing that paywall was so important to me because up until, 4 or 5 years ago,
Mhm.
getting getting my music in front of people was extremely difficult because, the ask of $20 an album or whatever is huge. I mean, that eliminates 99% of the people. They're just not going to look. I can go out into the internet and find stuff for free. Why would I bother with you if I can find it and I can find something that works and I'm good to go? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's super important that I found a company that would help me in this journey and also not try to push back and try to monetize in the way that was counterintuitive to my philosophy. You know what I mean? That I think was a hard ask for most companies that are dealing in the content ID space or in the distribution space, because honestly, I get it from a business perspective. They want to maximize the money that they're making and also maximize the money they're making for their client. And it's a very strange value proposition. I know you have
Like,
many more clients besides me, Kevin, Alex. How did that evolve since you started? Where now I know it's a major focus for the company, the royalty-free music space. Walk us through how that worked out and how you started providing that service.
that's a very good question indeed. So actually, it started with our own problem because we had a catalog with all of our music from back in the days, and we were always asking for credits for the use of our music. And then we were thinking, well, we have this catalog, but we don't have a way to protect it. Everyone can basically add the tracks to Content ID and then claim everything falsely, which is a headache for everyone. I mean, for the content creators, but also for us, because we have to solve all the copyright claims eventually.
Right.
We were sitting together with an IT person, and then we were discussing what's possible, what's not possible. And actually it appeared that in the YouTube API, we could get a lot of information like the video description and the video titles. And then we built like a small tool where we could set crediting keywords very specifically to, whatever you need. And then we could basically check if they were crediting yes or no. And if they were not crediting, we could place a copyright claim. So it was actually like a very fair system. It's still like that. It's a very fair system to check if they comply to your policy, yes or no. And that was for us a real game changer because from there onwards, we could actually police our policy of our back catalog. And then from there onwards, the Frequency Digital started actually, because that was still, the experimentation was still the label side.
Mm-hmm.
But at Frequency Digital, we saw that there was actually a lot of potential for this because we were not the only one with, like multi-free Creative Commons type of music. And then we started to also offer it for outside clients. But well, At first, we didn't have like a nice proper dashboard to show. So it was really like an admin tool. And we were trying to pitch our idea, but we didn't have anything to show, which is quite hard. And of course, the artist or the label, they also want to see what's happening. They want to just have some tools, just see how it works. Also just to trust a new company, because usually when a new company is just approaching someone in the email inbox, they're all like, well, that's probably like another Content ID company that just wants to claim everything and grab our royalties.
Right. Right.
So that's how it all started. And from there onwards, we started to build a full dashboard where you can basically see everything and manage everything.
So that's another area to kind of touch on briefly. So YouTube content creators, they're super involved with building a channel, building an audience, building a fan base, getting followers, getting subscribers and everything. Suddenly they get a content ID claim, and there's a big difference between a content ID claim and a copyright strike, right? On that platform.
Definitely.
I think it's really important for my audience to know the difference, because there are drastically different levels of violation on that platform. And when people see something from YouTube saying you did something wrong, they just assume like, oh my God, my entire channel is going to get shut down. And they just freak out that like 5 years of work is just going to evaporate overnight. So can you kind of clarify that for my audience? Like, what is that? What is the difference between a claim and a strike?
Yeah, so it's basically with a copyright claim, it's just like a notification, like, hey, you are using a song which is not according to how it should. In our case, it's possible just to solve it by complying to the policy and then disputing the claim. Then everything is fine, and that's it. Everything is back to normal again. I mean, with a copyright strike, it's a bit more rough because you can just get a couple of strikes and eventually your channel gets removed. But that's something that we are not doing. But you are definitely right. That's also why there are a lot of content creators and they are quite afraid of getting like these notifications from YouTube because they believe it's similar to a strike. So it's really important that the content creators, they also get taught a bit that a claim is not the same as a strike.
Yeah. Yeah. And that education is challenging because I think, based on what I said earlier, people get real paranoid with all this effort that they put in. And I could see where that's frustrating and just completely demoralizing when you get an email saying that you did something wrong and you're kind of, this is going to provide, your life and your income. The content creator economy is just building and building and building. Ever since COVID, it's like between podcasts, between online social media influencers and content creators, I mean, it's a booming industry. I think it's estimated to triple by the end of 2027, 2028 from a couple of seminars I've gone to. And it's really by the virtue of the fact that more people are doing things and trying this landscape out because they're tired of certain things. They're tired of their 9-to-5 grind. They're tired. They have this journey or this vision or this dream they've always wanted to kind of, fulfill for themselves. Maybe they're into fitness, maybe they're into music, maybe they're into reaction videos or something, and people thought they were funny, so they decide, hey, I want to make this channel and see how far I can take it. Maybe I can monetize it. Maybe I can get some sponsorships, and maybe I can do that, and navigating that in a way to understand that you're doing it correctly, and you're not gonna take this 3, 4, 5 years worth of work and just torpedo it by screwing up with some kind of copyright thing. Is so like drastically important to understand the process. And I talk to people often that use my stuff or just in general on this podcast. I think people don't understand. YouTube was the Wild West in the 2000s, right? When the platform opened up in like 05, 06, and the first like several years, honestly, there weren't these things in place, right? But YouTube just was, you could make a ton of money just having 1 million hits on a video. I mean, I knew people that created videos that had 1 million, 1.5 million hits. I made $7,000 over a weekend because nobody was making content for the platform at that time, Now you fast forward
quite a bit.
It certainly did. Now you fast forward 2026, it is the most watched platform anywhere, between cable TV, streaming, anywhere. It is the most, and it's the second largest search engine on the internet next to Google. So that being said, there are things in place. And basically, when you open up a YouTube channel, you're a TV station. And I think that's the thing that content creators don't fully grasp, is that you are your own broadcast network and you have to comply with all those things. And we're talking globally. The reach isn't just locally. You know, you could be in Denmark, you could be in France, you could be in the United States, you could be in Australia, you could be in Indonesia. There's local rules and there's global rules associated with everything. You really have to understand what you're doing before you start introducing things to your channel and your platform, because it is vital to making sure that all the efforts that you do don't get torpedoed with, you know, claims or ultimately strikes. That, you know, claims are doable, claims are manageable. Strikes, you have very limited path with
You have a
strikes.
couple
So
of chances, right?
yeah. So sometimes there's warnings with strikes that are understandable, and you just don't know. Sometimes there's something within the content. Like I did some legacy music videos that incorporated some movie clips or some clip from a TV show or whatever. And there was an element to it that I didn't realize was in there. And it gave me a warning. I was like, no idea. Like, this is something that was on the internet somewhere already. No idea. And they're like, okay, well, slap on the wrist, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry. Just don't repeat that. And I'm like, yeah, I won't even come close to that again. But you don't know.
Somewhat fair,
You know?
right?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you should be able to track down some of these people and have an actual meeting and conversation. Be like, look, if I was a repeat offender in that space, you would see dozens of videos that didn't, you know, comply with this particular rule. And that's not the case. A one-off. So they must understand, like, look, there's just so much content out there. They have automatic algorithms in the background that just search for things and go, okay, boom, you know, this is the deal.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that's another thing that brings up this. How does that work? How does Frequency Digital take the roughly 200,000 tracks that it manages and literally search through YouTube and figure out what's being used properly and what hasn't? Like, how does that technology just fascinates me?
Yeah, so actually, it's the system from Google itself. It's called Content ID. And that is like the fingerprinting system where it all starts. So you can add a track to the system, the Content ID, and then it's fingerprinting your track, and then it goes out and scans all the videos. And then if there's a match of more than 10 seconds, you will receive a copyright claim. What we did is we built actually a system on the system of Google. So we built like our own system with APIs, which is linked to Google Content ID.
Yeah. Now, some people wonder, why would you register that? It's just going to create more problems for the content creators, and it's going to create these flags and everything else. And my counter argument to that is, well, based on the royalty-free / Creative Commons license that I provide and that non-monetary paywall up front and the simple attribution language license, it's basically, listen, to comply with the usage of this music, you simply have to tell people where you got it and who the person was. And that has twofold benefits for the platform. Number one, it lets people know where they got the music. And it says, okay, yeah, Tim Coolidge wrote this. If you're interested in it, here's his website, here's the name of the track, and Tim Coolidge's the guy. The other benefit of this registration is that nefarious parties can't register my music that I'm giving away and then make a problem for the creators. And I think that's the bigger point on that platform, is securing the catalog that you're giving away. Correct?
Yeah, I totally agree. So that was also for us the main problem at first, because basically if you didn't register your music, everyone else can register your music. And for some people in the world, they see it as their business model. So they just try to steal a lot of music. They just register everything. Probably like 90% gets removed again, but still they probably have some tracks where they can just monetize a lot of videos, which is horrible for everyone. I mean, the artist doesn't see any royalties. The royalties are basically going to a person with some other intentions, and all the content creators, they are flooded with claims while they shouldn't get claims, maybe.
Yeah. It's a real challenge. And I know most people don't push back. Most people are obscenely apologetic. They're like, I'm sorry, I completely, and usually that's, I don't want to say this first thing. It's one of the things. Sometimes in the video description, it's just a matter of timing, like a time allotment, or just kind of laziness. Sometimes when they go to do stuff, they're like, "Oh, I use this," and they didn't fully document what they did, and they forgot to add that information. And it's fine. It's like, okay, you forgot to do this. It just correct it first, and then file the
Yeah, it's fair,
dispute.
right? It's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah.
So, so it really easy to navigate. So, switching over to the other aspect of what Frequency Digital offers, which is distribution, I found your company to be significant in the sense that there's a lot of like lower cost ones out there, like DistroKid, TuneCore, that kind of thing, that offer DSPs, but like no real hands-on or personal, customer service or anything like that on navigating problems once you distribute the music. But also, you guys distribute to like 3 times as many DSPs. And again, those are, to anybody listening, that's digital service providers. That's anything from social media platforms to streaming services like Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, and the like. How do you have so many relationships with all these different DSPs? And what do you see coming down the road as like other opportunities with some of those streaming, some of the new emergent streaming platforms?
A good question. So first of all, we have like our standard selection. And the thing is, we work with a lot of similar type of artists. And you have to see it like every artist is having like his own company because they all try to make a living out of it. And they are scouting for new opportunities everywhere. And we literally have clients all over the world. And they come to us and they say, "Hey, Damian," or "Hey, Rutger, this is a interesting DSP. I would like to add it for my tracks because I know how to collect significant royalties from there or have a lot more exposure, which is helping me." And then we are like, okay, well, let's see if that's possible, if we can add it to our collection. And then we also want to let other artists from us benefit from that. So that's actually how we work. So we have a lot of personal contact with our artists. And then if they have like an idea, we also try to let all the other artists benefit from that. And that's also how it differs from all the aggregators. So with the aggregators, they usually just send you tracks and then it's quite passive, which is great for most artists. I mean, it works. You just get your royalties. It's cheap. But with us, we try to go a little bit deeper. So we are also not open to work with everyone because you have to make some decisions. It needs to be commercially viable for us as well. So we cherry pick our clients basically, and then we try to establish like real collaborations for the long term. So usually we sign contracts that are not super long term, but because of how the collaboration is going, clients just stay with us. So we rarely have any clients who ever left, and that's the way how we want to establish long-term relations.
Yeah, the interesting thing about some of these DSPs is and again, talking to some of the aggregators, and aggregators being DistroKid, TuneCore, that kind of thing, the ones that are
Exactly.
a single fee, less than $100 a year, and they send it to everything. Well, one of the things that's lacking with that is, so I'll give you an example of an experience I had on the Meta platform. I think a good portion of my ability to earn on there was just discounted from the simple fact that DistroKid standard was to, if there's a conflict, disallow. Like, we don't want any conflict. We don't have the manpower. And again, it comes down to this. It comes down to the amount of people that work for this company being able to navigate, hundreds of thousands of problems a month, if not more, I'm sure, based on
ridiculous numbers for sure.
Yeah. That their standard reaction to musical conflicts, algorithmic conflicts, is just nope, we're just going to demonetize those and just remove those or whatever. We're not going to try and navigate the problem. Whereas Frequency Digital is like, no, we're trying to maximize the revenue and income for our clients, but also understand the platform better so that as we're distributing to these platforms, we're doing it in such a way that it doesn't create conflicts on that platform, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And that's also why we consider before collaborating with someone if it's worth it. Because When we start a collaboration, we also want to be sure that we can track down everything. If we would work with everyone, it will be like the same thing as with DistroKit because there will be so many issues coming in. So we like to establish like real collaborations and then help them as much as possible. So that can be in various ways. So it depends, of course, also on how commercially interesting it is for everyone. But in some cases, we also have to send like legal letters if it's really needed, because we just don't want that there are other people collecting and benefiting from tracks from our artists, because it's just not fair.
And unraveling that in some cases, especially with somebody that maybe entertained a couple of different collectors on their behalf over the years or over a short period of time. Now the rights managers are in flux and a misunderstanding. And I could see where somebody just starting out, or maybe somebody with a smaller catalog, it doesn't make viable sense to you because it's like, that's a lot of work and there's not a lot of activity happening for this person. And we have to think like a business, right? We have to understand what effort we're going to put into this and what are we going to get as a return. And I can completely understand that, almost to the point where in those cases, you may be like, hey, listen, get your house in order first.
It's true. I mean, we would love to help everyone, of course. But we need to make some decisions sometimes because we don't want to drown ourselves with work.
Right.
We are still like a growing company. It's expected to grow with colleagues as well in the coming months, which is good. But of course, we need to keep our focus, and our focus is that we establish partnerships with our artists, and then that we are sure that we can help them with solving these kind of issues.
So as far as that royalty-free Creative Commons space, sorry, my cat always gets involved with my podcast. You probably hear him screaming in the background. He's like, you've been talking too long.
He wants some attention.
He totally does. So in this space, are you finding more and more interest in the royalty-free Creative Commons space and people coming to you specifically in that space to help distribute, based on the fact that you guys are really focused on that? Like, I think it's kind of been a focus since the beginning, but it's more overt and in the face over the last year to like 18 months. You really said like, yeah, we've evolved to a platform that's our main focus. It's royalty-free composers, because we know how to navigate that now. And it was based on the fact that you guys had a catalog of stuff in the beginning that you guys had to figure out how to handle.
Like I just said, it actually started as like a short-term project. So we didn't anticipate that would be that interesting. Of course, we saw that there were some artists. We did like some research before, but we actually didn't know that it would be that big, and that there are that many royalty-free artists around there. And every day we are connecting with new artists, which is actually quite amazing.
Yeah, that's promising to me, in the sense that if the industry is shifting towards that, at least for independent composers and independent artists, and there's a platform for us to explore opportunities to make money, and you guys are in the forefront. I mean, I just don't know of anybody else that has this focus, Damian. And I'm just so glad I found you guys. I mean, technically, I've got Alex to thank for that, because he's the one that's like, hey, I've been talking to this company here, and I think there's some opportunity, and you guys should think about it. I'm like, okay, well, I'll let you test the waters for, you know how it is when you're like tentative, like, I don't know who this is. And, then you treated him good. And then I end up contacting you about 6 months later. And the rollout was really, really painless. And then, just like a whole upload process of getting you new tracks and everything. Like it's very, and the big thing for me too is accessibility. Some of these other companies I've dealt with in the past, it's just like, you send an email and like 3-4 days later you get a response, and it's an autoresponder. It's like, it's just
an AI reply.
Yeah, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I find it challenging enough to get my music in front of enough people and enough ways for it to get used so that the royalties do come through on the back end. That's another aspect I think is important for the audience to understand and realize. Because it's royalty free, and I always like to say this now, the last year I've been trying to incorporate this language into, like, it's royalty free to the end user. So what does that mean? It means I don't have a paywall, and if somebody wants to use it, they can use it for free as long as they comply with the Creative Commons royalty-free language that I specify on various platforms. The royalties for me come from platforms. So this is money that's already aggregated on these various platforms to pay musicians like myself. And it doesn't take away from those individual content creators. It's on the back end of the whole platforms. It's so important for me to share that with my audience and also talk to you about that aspect, because yes, there's no paywall. There's ways for me to get paid. And it really is about perpetuating the brand and the music catalog as far and wide and usage as far and wide as possible. And I think where people get weird and like tentative about the royalty free space is like, well, I don't know, like, so I'm going to use this thing. You say it's free. All right, what's the catch? What's the catch? The catch is you just have to include the language. It's
and actually
real simple.
Yeah, it's just a great way of marketing, right? And then also the artist is benefiting from that. Yeah, so yeah, indeed, we see like a lot of times that the content creators that they don't really understand that it's still with some rules. So you need to have like a license or you need to credit, and that's usually where it goes wrong. And that's when we come in and then we place, for instance, a copyright claim, but we still try to manage it in like a fair way. So if they are happy to add the credits, all good. Or if they, for instance, purchase a license directly to you, all good. But it's just indeed, sometimes the knowledge about royalty free is not up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, in the claims process, most of that stuff happens automatically in the background. YouTube sends out an automatic email or notification in YouTube Studio, and then the creator itself has to act accordingly. Either they do something or the individual video is no longer monetized if they actually have monetization at all, which in a lot of cases, smaller creators that don't have, what are the limited, that's 4,000 hours a year of view time or so many subs, like there's a very large aggregate amount of people that get these claims that don't even have money to claim in the beginning. So it's kind of irrelevant for them, until their channel is monetized. But
yeah, it's true.
But what would you say is the ratio of people that are compliant after getting a claim versus maybe not so friendly about getting a like just as a general sense? Because it's interesting to me what that response would be.
So you mean the amount of content creators that reach out and they are not so happy? Or do you mean like the amount of content, how many of them crediting?
Yeah, like not so happy versus the ones that are apologetic and like, oh, how do I fix this? Well, you know what I mean? Like, what would you think the ratio is to that? And how do you navigate that? Because I imagine bad email, like negative sounding and angry emails aren't fun to navigate.
No, definitely true. Yeah, but actually the thing is, it's not that much. So it's really about the communication to your audience. So first of all, we see a very, very big difference in the amount of content creators that credit and percentage-wise. So with some artists, we start and like only 5% of the content creators is properly crediting. While with other artists, they have more like a community and they teach the community a bit better, I would say. And then it's much more. It can be like that 40% is crediting, which is still below half.
Yeah,
it's still less than half.
Better than 5.
Definitely. But then still, we are placing like millions of claims every time. And amount of emails where people are really upset is quite minimum, I would say.
Yeah.
Of course, it happens. If you are placing every day that many claims, there will be some people that are getting really upset. But everything is always solved in the end. The content creators, they usually understand. It only sometimes happens that they are a bit afraid to tell, because sometimes they come to us and they are like, hey, I actually credited this video. And then we dive into the system and we say that they didn't, but they added the credits after, which is fine. I mean, we can just release a claim, no worries. But they just feel like they cannot say that they didn't put the credits before because they feel like we want to punish them. But that's not the case. We are very fair.
Yeah. I think that's a weird human nature thing, Damian, where I think as human beings, oftentimes in various societies, U.S. is definitely a place where I see that prevalent, where people don't want to be wrong. They feel like that's a sign of weakness to not have all the answers, and that's just not realistic. I'm 51 years old, and I can tell you, every year I get older, the less I know, and the more humble I get when I approach a situation and I'm not exactly correct about, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm totally off about this. Can you help me fix this problem? I don't know what I did wrong here. I'm
It happens to
sorry.
everyone.
Yeah, but I think that humility is so important in any and it's not just this space. It's like any aspect of life. Like we don't know. We're not going to have all the right answers, and it's okay to fall on your face. And I think you can do it with grace if you could just immediately admit out of the gate, like, made a mistake, didn't understand that completely. Sorry. How do I fix it? And let's move forward in a way that is mutually beneficial, Whereas
Absolutely.
people, what you're saying is some of the folks, the rare cases where people have a reaction or they do the correction and are like, no, I did that. They're like, I don't want to be wrong. Somebody taught them somewhere along the road that if you're wrong, it's just going to have a negative connotation and association with who you are. And I think it's a good character trait to be able to admit, like, hey, I screwed up. Just tell me. And
Yeah, it's
I'll
not an
admit it.
issue. I mean, it's okay. The thing is also, we also see like big variations between countries. I mean, in Asia, they are super polite. You get to some other countries where they're a little bit less, but
Yeah.
well,
Now, one thing that's creeping into, I wouldn't say it's creeping into, it's like devastating some platforms, is the emergence of AI generated music. And I know this is probably a point for you guys because language models are basically trained on a huge batch of music that we don't know what the batch is. And it takes phrasing and pieces of all this stuff and it creates new pieces. And there becomes algorithmic conflicts with that, as well as kind of satiate or not, like peanut buttering across the music, this aggregate music that kind of trains off itself. And there's this talk about how eventually there'll be enough AI generated music or art that as the model trains itself, there's this redundancy that happens where like it becomes homogenized into this like repeat kind of stuff. And you can still tell it to this day. Like even Suno, it's as good as that program gets. I can tell because I always call it this. I call it Suno's one instrument. And if you listen to a track close enough, you can hear how each, unless there's a soundless pause, right? You can hear how the vocals slide into the lead, slide into the drums, slide into like it's one algorithmic composition that gets shoved out. What is Frequency Digital's policy and position on AI generated music, and how is that affecting the platform going forward?
yeah, so you were definitely right. It's getting better. It's not up there. But as far as our position, so we are not saying no against AI generated music. We want to be like a flexible company in the industry. And I mean, the industry is changing all the time, maybe with AI a little bit quicker. But we want to be able to facilitate what's needed in the industry. So of course, if someone is now generating a lot of AI music and they come to us with, let's say, 1 million tracks, because that's possible, you can just generate it, right?
I know, it's crazy.
But in that case, we are not that happy to just start a collaboration right now because it will just result in literally endless reference overlaps. Because usually they don't really know what the music is or what the AI is trained on. And as long as you don't know where the AI, how it's trained, you also say fully, okay, these rights belong to me. Because we can then not assert all the ownership on all these reference overlaps because it doesn't make any sense. So it is interesting, but let's say if you have your own catalog of 2000 tracks and you would use some AI to make some new songs where it's learning from also your catalog, perhaps there are some possibilities. I mean, I wouldn't be too afraid of AI as an artist. Of course, the competition is increasing because more tracks means more competition. But if you think about it, there was already so much music out there. If you want to find music, you can get it literally everywhere.
Yeah.
There's everywhere music, everywhere you can just download it. It's crazy. But I believe it's mainly important to get your music in the right places when the people want to see it. So if you are a content creator, you want to see songs that are very relevant for your video, and you don't want to scroll through millions of tracks. Yeah, for sure. For the rights management perspective, it's going to be a very interesting period, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I've read some articles and some independent content creators that are attorney based that are dealing with class action suits and other things related to Udio and Suno. And specifically the terms of service, wherein like Suno specifically says in their terms of service that they literally wash their hands. They're like, you use this at your own risk, even the commercial level, because they clearly don't want to get involved in 100,000 millions of lawsuits based on the usage of the stuff. So
Of course.
it engenders the question, even if you pay for a commercial level license on these platforms, there's no guarantee that what you produce is actually yours to begin with. And I think that is something to have pause and concern about in producing your own music. I've always been so far on the level of with these new technologies and everything, like they're great ideators, right? If you're stuck and you're looking for a way to create a melody or something, and because I love the music flowing through me. I just have all these ideas all the time when I can not be wrapped up in admin or this or that or personal life or whatever. And I can just quiet my mind and listen to the music in my head and commit it to my keyboard. It's a wonderful feeling. There's nothing greater than creating like that. Offloading it or subcontracting it out to some piece of software with a simple prompt just doesn't feel the same. You know, it doesn't feel like creating. It feels like something else.
It's a bit like cheating, right?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that, but it's almost like it's being lazy. It's being like hunting for the next chord, hunting for that melody that is swirling around in your head. There's something beautiful and pure about that from a musician standpoint, from a composer standpoint. And when you nail it and you produce this song and you release it, regardless of how it's perceived or received by your audience, there are tracks that I absolutely adore of my own that are literally like the best performance I think I've ever made. And some of them are well received and some of them not as much. They just don't resonate with people, but it speaks to something in me personally. And it evokes an emotional response every single time I listen to that track. And I think that's really one of the most important things, because that's really what music is. Music is trying to tell a story. And the better the story is, the more emotions you pull out of people in the process. And the more you do that, the more it resonates with them. And the more you're adding value to whatever it is they're doing. If they're just listening to it or they add it to their content, you know, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, to begin with, it's something creative, right? And it also feels like that AI is like a new tool, and that like the artists, or maybe not so artistic artists, they come and see this tool as a business tool. But definitely, I totally agree with creating music by yourself, and also then the storytelling, and also showing who you are to your audience. There should always be room for that. So it's not that AI is going to take over everything. I don't think
Right.
so. For sure, maybe like the background type of music, when people are just lazy and they want to hear some type of music and they don't mind at all. Music that is created by real artists, that should be still valuable, I see.
Yeah. And I think to that end, it's also what we're going to see is the value add economy of composer musicians. And what do I mean by that? I mean, anybody can come and get a $20, $30 a month Suno subscription, right? And fire out a million songs, like you said, and publish them through an aggregator and just hope that one of those hits gold and make a ton of money. Great. If that's what your goal is and that's what you want to do, no judgment here, but that's your thing. I think the future of composition and music creation and people like myself in the royalty-free space, it's about the value add of customer service. I think creating communities through podcasting, through social media, through various, I have a Discord channel that I'm starting to build now, Patreons, everything, where you let people know the kind of stuff that you're doing, ask them for the things that they're looking for. And specifically, I have relationships with like a half a dozen to a dozen creators where I literally ask them what they're looking for coming down the pipeline. And I'll focus on those genres and I'll focus on adding that value, even though it's free up front. And navigating problems they have on platforms, you're not going to get that from an aggregator. You're not going to get that from an artist that's firing out a million tunes. So, 3, 4, 5 years from now, it's artists like myself that provide that value are going to be the ones that people come and seek out because they're like, look, this is safe. I know that this person is heavily managing their catalog. They're taking care of conflicts, and they're here to provide a service. They're not just here to throw something out there and then damage or take away from somebody's productivity or building a brand by creating these claims or everything and just messing with their whole vibe and their whole building of social media, building and everything else. In my heart of hearts, I think, Damian, that's going to be the future, is making sure that there's really a hands-on thing, which is why I work with you guys. I know it comes full circle from what I said in the beginning. It's the main reason I have the relationship with you guys, is that hands-on and customer service and real one-to-one human experience and human interaction is going to make the difference in the next 5 to 10 years, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, because you can just pump out as many songs as you want with AI, but you need to be able to manage it. And if you cannot guarantee that it's free from any issues, is it even something worth?
Yeah. Agreed. So what's the future of Frequency Digital? What are some of your goals and plans as a company over the next 5 to 10 years? What do you see coming forward?
Well, we are still like a young company, so we have a lot of brilliant ideas, I would say.
Mhm.
So first of all, like I said to you like a week ago, we are still working on our new branding, which is something that we have been working on for like a year or so. That's something that we need to get out there because it is needed. The current branding that we have at the moment is not really matching us. So we want to launch our new branding to show who we are, what we stand for. That's one thing. The other thing is at the moment we have a dashboard, which is mainly focused on YouTube content ID. Want to build that out. We want to make it like one place where you can manage everything for your music. So we want that you can go to our platform, select where you want to distribute your songs to. You can then just select which songs you want to distribute to which stores or Content ID, Spotify, maybe not to any other platform. You can just select that there. That's another thing. And like I said, we have good contact with all of our clients, which is also growing. And we want to be able to keep our ears open for some new ideas. And we already have like a big list of things that we want to investigate, which are likely being rolled out for all of our clients. So
Awesome.
I don't want to expose too much, but we have some interesting stuff on the list.
Awesome. And just for my audience, where could we find you if I happen to be an independent musician and I'm interested in everything that Frequency Digital has to offer?
Yeah, so you can just go to our website, frequencydigital.com. Maybe, Tim, you can also put it in the description or something.
I absolutely will.
To click. But yeah, so you can just find us there. Then you can just write us a message and we can get in touch.
Awesome. Dude, I'm really happy, Damian, that you took the time today to join me. I really wanted to celebrate your company, celebrate the relationship we have that I know is going to last for many years, and really just appreciate everything you do for independent artists like myself that are focused on the royalty-free space. And I'm very excited to see what has to come, the rest of this year and the coming years coming forward. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. We are always very, very interested in connecting with artists like you. And we have some brilliant ideas. You have a lot of good plans for the future, I see. So we love to connect, and thanks for inviting me for the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks again, Damian. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk soon.